Okay, so next one in this series of guns that I've got that are kind of fun to play with. This one is kind of a unique gun. I actually just got this one not that long ago. And I actually found a lot of videos on YouTube about this gun. But I didn't find anything on rebuilding this gun. So this is a semi-automatic BB gun. It's actually a Crosman 600 semi-automatic. It was built back in the 60s, I believe. The CO2 cartridge actually goes into this hole. The pellet, which is a 22 pellet, comes out of there. The 22 pellets are actually loaded into this area here. And then basically it gives you a multi-shot 22 caliber pistol, which is kind of cool, and would kind of be a fun one to have, just to again plink around with, let the kids shoot around with, so you don't have to worry about getting injured too much if they did fire it or misfire it. Anyway, but this one here actually needs rebuilt. It has bad seals in it, and so I'm gonna actually go through the process of rebuilding this, and I'll try to document that the best that I can. Like I said, the CO2 cartridge goes in this hole here, and this is actually a piercing tool. It pierces the CO2 cartridge, and I actually bought CO2 cartridges when I got this gun, and put one in there and tightened it up and pierced, and all of the air came out of this hole and this hole and this hole, and so it needs rebuilt. Now on eBay, and actually find a rebuild kit for, it says the 600, the 677, and it has actually seal identifications, and even gave a breakdown of the weapon, which is kind of handy, because finding the breakdown of a 22 pistol is not as easy as finding it for a real gun, which this is a real gun. Don't by any means think it's not. And it even has a parts list for the assembly for this that came with my actual seals. So new seals that were shipped. I think I paid like $10 or something like that for this setup. So I'm going to attempt to tear the gun down and try to start to rebuild it. Now, I have had the handles off, and I've had some of the other plates off a little bit, so this hopefully won't take super long to tear it down. I may stop the video at some point because I don't want it to go too long, and make it a multi-part if you're interested. Just kind of a cool gun. Like I said, you can find lots of stuff on YouTube, but I didn't find anything that they were actually tearing the gun down. And so for me, when I go to YouTube, usually I'm trying to find helpful hints on stuff like that. So this one just has a screw here that actually will release both the front and rear handles. I don't know if it's front or rear, and it exposes this plate here. This plate's actually where the trigger mechanism and action part of this gun actually are. Again, keep track. I use a tray when I clean or take guns apart because I just hate losing things. It stinks to have to go find parts. Anyway, the action there, again, not super complicated, but kind of gives you an idea how even the safety here works. Blocking basically the trigger from firing. The safety is actually underneath the handle right here on the other side, but that's actually what it does. It just blocks the trigger from firing. The cocking mechanism is here, so it actually cocks the gun there. This is a semi-automatic, so it has to be able to be repeatable, and so it's got some, some intricate parts here that have to work when the CO2 cartridge actually is operating as well. A lot of these parts actually have to come out to get the innards of the gun out where those new seals go. So I'm just going to go ahead and take those apart and I guess we'll see how long this video actually runs. I don't want it to be too long, because I know that I don't watch long videos on YouTube because they get boring. So hopefully this will be quick, and hopefully it's fairly painless. If you're working on one of these, hopefully it will be helpful to you to see one come apart, or maybe if you've got a bunch of parts that you took it apart and don't know how to put it back together, you can see how mine is held together, and that might help your project. So anyway, I like to put stuff back kind of where I find it. So off screen here a little bit, I guess I'm putting just kind of stuff off to the side, so I can remember where it goes. I'll also have this video to reference now, which is kind of helpful for the rebuild on this particular weapon. Okay, this has to come up. This piece. And I haven't had all this apart, so I'm not exactly sure. I'm just going to play it by ear, so bear with me. I don't even know if I have all the tools I need to remove all of this stuff either, so we'll see how it goes here as we get going. Yeah, that looks like it's going to be harder than I was hoping. This back side, I'm going to go ahead and remove this screw, which stops the action. Hopefully I'm not getting too much in your way, but I'm also doing this for me, so I kind of don't care if I get in your way. There. I'm going to remove, there's a screw in the back there that I'm going to remove. Again, most of this just flathead screwdriver to remove this stuff. This is the spring for the actual magazine piece of it. I believe that is all you need there. And then this piece has to come out somehow to get, if you guys have taken these apart before, some of you might be there screaming, "You're an idiot. You need to do this first." And I don't know. I might be. It's been known to happen. No, that's not holding because I don't hit those. Alright, I'm going to pause it and see if I figure this out, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So, something I just learned, you have to cock this back and lock the hammer piece back up in there to get this piece off. This piece here just lifts, and there's a little tiny slot right there that'll allow you to kind of get it up high enough and then slip out of the gun itself. Some of you guys may already know that. I didn't, so live and learn. And then I'm just going to go ahead and basically pull the trigger here, which is going to release that. Now, in theory, I should be able to push some of this stuff out of the gun, hoping. Maybe. I thought that was all that was holding it in, so I could be wrong though. It looks like there's a big screw down there, not a little one. I may have to go to the manual here and see if I can figure out how the rest of this action comes apart. Again, I'm not going to bore you while I play around with that, and I'll come back and show you what I figured out. Okay, so this is back again. There is a screw down in the hole there. It's actually not really even a screw. What I went and got is I actually have, it's a wrench, but it fits down there, and what you do is you just have to kind of turn to release that thing, which will allow you to finish to take the innards out of this gun. So, I think, so it's not really a screw, it's actually where the screen and stuff is, but this tool just fit in there nicely. I don't have any clue what that is. I just went out in my shop and found something that fits. So anyway, so, and you have a little washer and a little, I don't know, sleeve spacer, and also a spring and pin piece of the weapon there. Okay, and then the next thing that actually needs to come apart is we have to take this back sight off, which is just held in by a screw right here, and it actually works best if you just kind of hold that trigger down, or not the trigger, the sight down, and push that, pull that screw out, because it puts a little bit of tension on that screw. And then there's a spring and for that back sight, so you can adjust that back sight. Now, down in the hole here, we actually have a little pin right here that has to come out, and that's going to release the inner workings of the weapon here. Now, I have it cocked here again, so I'm essentially again going to just pull the trigger and take that out. I'm actually going to remove that spring. Oh, just lost it or there. Dropped it on the ground. So the rest of this can actually come apart. Now, that pin on this one just pushes out from this bottom piece. It's just a guide pin kind of. So I've got it there. And you kind of want to hold this because it is spring loaded. So go ahead and remove that pin right there. And then you've got your spring and other piece here. And then what actually has to happen next, there's a piece in here that actually has to come out. And the best way that I found was basically just grabbing it kind of and just working it out. It's actually this whole piece here, so you can actually push from this side as well now that that pin's out, so you can kind of push this whole mechanism. You can kind of see it coming out there, and you pry up just a little bit here, and it's just basically a process of getting that to move. Now it won't twist in there because you've got the actual pin piece for the mechanism for loading, but you just kind of get in there, and you just have to kind of work it out. And this is super fun. Once you get it kind of going, I've just, on mine, and I don't know how all of them are, but basically I'm just rocking it back and forth as I pull the mechanism out. Okay, now the rest of this gun, the safety could be removed. You can remove this this loading piece. You can remove the barrel, but I'm not doing that. I'm just trying to replace the seals basically that are in this tube here, okay? And just kind of clean this whole gun up because it's kind of dirty. So this piece here is actually the piece that is used to caulk the gun and to reload the gun, this little slider. And you can see it's actually inset. The inset goes to the back, and then this piece comes out. This is the guide piece, and actually right inside here is the seal, one of the first seals we're going to get to replace from our kit. And that, I think, is the main seal that's leaking on this gun. I also have, there's a brass piece and you have to pull these two pins out. I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, put the new seal in, and then reassemble the gun, and we'll see if it works and if it will go ahead and fire. So I'm going to take a few minutes and clean the gun up, and then I'll come right back. Okay, so I've cleaned the gun. This is the combination of like shotgun cleaner pieces and some other stuff to get the whole area cleaned. I also replaced that seal and oiled that with just a little bit of gun oil as well. I also have another seal here that I'm replacing. It goes here, and there was a new seal in the package that I got that I'm replacing it with. So that seal is right here. It's the seal between the action and the actual cylinder here. Now I actually think the goes there just like that, replacing that seal right there, which that seal looks like it's okay. It may have a little bit of damage there on the edge. Anyway, so I actually believe you can put this piece, and actually I already slid in the little brass piece with the hammer. Make sure you have the sleeve and the washer in there, and I'm going to go ahead and put that back in here using, again, my wrench. I'm just going to tighten that up. You have to kind of push down on it a little bit because that's spring action. And I'm just going to tighten that down just snug, finger tight, which hopefully will be tight enough for that action. Now, putting this back into the gun, I am going to lube this up just a little bit with a little bit of gun oil, mostly just so all the parts slide together. Also right here on the seal, just so that hopefully will create a good tight seal. I also cleaned the interior of this gun as well, just again by running this shotgun cleaner, which is still getting a little bit. This gun's pretty dirty. You do need to make sure you put this piece back in. Again, it just drops in, you twist it, and it slides over that piece there, which runs, again, that action on this. So, with it all lubed up, I'm going to go ahead and slide this whole mechanism back in, being real careful right here where I put that seal in, because I don't want it to be damaged. Probably a better way to do this, but this is the way I'm gonna do it. I do need to make sure I line this up so it goes in, and that needs to line up. This lined up, you can kind of see down there that setup, and that should just slide in there, and then you have to line it up with that pinhole. So this big spring goes down, which is going to hold that action assembly and everything in. This piece, which is the back lining piece, and this pin here should slide down and everything lined up, we should be able to pop the gun back together here. Oh, come on. She's off just a little bit. There we go. Come on. There we go. Kind of got to hold that in as you're pushing it in. It should, in theory, let's go together. We need to use a little bit of tapping here. Hopefully. There we go. Now, when that screw goes in the back, it actually is going to hold that pin as well as this rear sight piece. So the rear sight just slides in, and that spring actually goes in where that pin is. And again, I'm going to hold it down and put this screw back into place. Now, any moving parts I would want to lubricate again with gun oil, keep it lubricated and clean. Gaskets, hopefully the gaskets are all good. And this does not go down all the way, which gives the sight the adjustability up and down. And then it also has an adjuster here. It's pretty cool for, like I said, a pellet gun. And there's that. There's that. Now we're going to put the caulking mechanism back in, because I'm going to need the caulking mechanism back together to put everything back together. I have to caulk the gun to put some of the stuff back together. So I'm going to put that back in. I think I'm done in the back, so I'm going to put this pin here. This is actually the spring for the magazine, I guess is what you'd call it, without better words, I guess. The magazine piece for that, and then this backing plate just screws in. And again, that screw right there is actually that's what we're gonna hold that back pin in. That nice and snug. Okay, so that's all together. That's there. That's there. Never took the safety off. I have taken it off before, but I didn't take it off for this part of it. Okay, and then we're back over here to this side. Get in there. Hopefully you were seeing all that. Okay, so one of the things we need to do is we need to actually caulk this back and put that in place. This actually goes here and there, which will actually caulk that when the gun is being used. And we're going to put this piece that we had a little bit of trouble with initially in. Goes in the hole, into the, and then it slides up and in, maybe. Come on. In there. And then this trigger piece goes in. And that trigger piece has a spring on it that goes actually here. here and goes around that piece, which holds that. And then we have the next piece, and this little pin here that actually keeps it all in sync. Okay, so I think that's all back together. This cover plate goes back on. It's going to be a nice long video, unfortunately, but hopefully only one video, so that'll be good. Put these on. Okay. The only other thing is to put the triggers or the hand grips on, which they just one screw, and go ahead and tighten this down. Now, in theory, I've replaced the two main seals in here, which are the ones that I think were bad. For this application. Let's see, make sure there. And I think we're pretty much ready to fire it. I'm going to do a couple just quick checks and then we'll come back. Okay, so it's all together. Everything seems to be working okay. As far as that goes, I did put a new CO2 cartridge in. And again, the CO2 cartridge, this basically just on this end, it screws on, and then once you got it all screwed in and tight, then it's a pretty simple process here. You just push this tab in on this gun anyway, and that's going to pierce that CO2 cartridge and basically let us know if we were successful. Now, I did find a couple different things. One thing was I've got some different 22 ammunition. Now, this one it's a Crosman series. This one fits just fine in there. This other one, I actually thought it was a Crosman as well, but it has a little BB in the end. It's supposed to make it better, I guess, but it actually, this gun will not cycle these rounds. They're too big. So to load this, again, it's pretty straightforward. You pull this back, you drop one of those in. I'm not going to do it at this point. We'll do a little test fire if everything works with our CO2 here out in the shop. So that's kind of the idea here. So just real quick to see if it's going to work, we're going to, again, we got that tight. We pierce and then listen for air leaks. So sounds like we did it. So now, if we cock this back, we're shooting with air, and it's basically fully automatic. Now, that's why I didn't load it. We'll go ahead and load it and shoot it a little bit out in the shop. So back in a minute. So we're out in my shop. It's pretty cold. We're about 8 degrees out here in Utah. Anyway, I've loaded it. I've got 10 in the magazine. It is on safe.